Okay, well, worker ants live for roughly 7 years. And a queen ant lives for up to 15. That's kind of crazy.
I mean, there are many types of ants in many different places. Like, I bet the ones in Minnesota don't live as long as the ones like on the equator.
I don't know.
There's a type of ant that lives that long, unless you are
Nice.
a reproductive male. That's the ants that have the wings, and they only live around 2 weeks. Somebody asked, one of the top Google questions is, can ants live up to 100 years? Was Woodstock a cult? Just trying to segue here.
Nice.
Like maybe a minuscule in time cult. I mean, maybe, because you could say wood cult was a really spiritual experience and not really like one of those Jesus cults, but
yeah.
Speaking of, how are we defining cult?
Wait. Oh, hey, Mara, by the way, Woodstock the movie came out in 1970. Is that helpful? Maybe that's what you were thinking of.
It is for sure. Wow, they only waited less than a year to make a movie? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's Hollywood, baby.
Welcome to My Top Everything. I'm your host, Marion.
I'm Kara.
And I'm Mara.
And we are three sweet, angelic best friends who argue about anything and everything in a very God-approved way, I've decided. And God decided.
And we believe in God, apparently.
They exist.
God's a woman.
Yes. Just wanted to start it off controversial right from the beginning, like prep people for what we're about to get into today. This episode's topic is top 3 cults I would be swindled into joining. And Carrie, you, before we properly introduced the podcast, you were asking,
how are we defining cult? Which I have Merriam-Webster up. And I would like to go first.
That's interesting because for one of the first times ever, I did not feel like I needed to define it. I didn't feel like I needed to look it up. I felt like I had a good understanding of what a cult is.
I feel like that makes sense because you've read a couple books.
I mean, I love cults.
Yeah. So the definition I have in front of me is a cult refers most often to a group of people with usually atypical beliefs living in relative isolation from the world. And then the other definition I found gets into the religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister.
Okay.
That's good.
Is that similar to you?
Yeah. Merriam-Webster has 5 definitions, but I'm just going to say the top 2. So number 1 is a religion regarded as unorthodox or spurious. And then number 2 is a great devotion to a person, idea, object, movement, or work. I'm working under definition 2, just to preface this.
I mean, we talk about cults back in the day, like way back in the day, thousands of years ago. And those are just like religious sects, basically. Like they're not even super culty. So I think number 2 is kind of where I was working from too. The idea that it's a group of people who are following a certain person, charismatic person, certain ideas. I would say a cult bleeds into your lifestyle and usually has its own set of terminology and rules for living. That's how I would probably further define a cult, is like when you're in a cult, it's not just like you like the thing. It's not like a fan club, like a Pokemon fan club versus a Pokemon cult. Like if there were a Pokemon cult, I would say probably the things it needs to have: 1, some type of like really charismatic leader who probably goes by like the Almighty Ash or something.
Nice.
2, it would have rules like catch 'em all, evolve, continue to evolve, some that, other plays on Pokemon.
You're really good off the cuff, dude.
Thank you. And 3 is probably you would have like, what do they call those things? A familiar Pokemon that you would like have to like tattoo onto you somewhere. Or you'd have to like tattoo, if it was like Pikachu, yellow and brown stripes on you somewhere. Like, you know, something. Cults definitely, you're supposed to live your life a certain way based on the rules of the cult. I think that's an important part of it. Yes.
When Grayson and I were talking about this beforehand, because I only used like 45 minutes to prep, we were doing a lot of like, he was like posing religious ideas. And I was like, I don't feel like that's the definition of cult that I work under. I think that cults tend to be, the majority of the population doesn't see their belief system as normal or viable or whatever. And then 2, I usually feel like cults do some sort of destructive act, whether or not that be on themselves and their property or somebody else's property, objects, body, whatever. Like, I feel like there's usually like a destructive element of some sort.
I don't know. I think that is something that we've been taught, is that like cults are bad, because there are a lot of bad cults and a lot of cults that involve brainwashing or harmful
just using the
ideology.
patriarchy to keep us in line once again, trying to make money off of us.
But I do think that there is the possibility for positive cults. It's just usually we don't recognize them as cults at that point. You could almost like I thought about this but this is from one of the books I read, so I felt like it was cheating. But like CrossFit has like all the makings of a modern cult. Doesn't mean it's negative or like bad necessarily, but it has like all of the kind of things. Like they have their certain terminologies, they have their rules. You have this kind of peer pressure and like getting members and becoming a member. And so CrossFit's kind of like a modern cult, but I wouldn't necessarily say that CrossFit is bad. Like, you know, it's not harming anybody necessarily, as far as I know. Disclaimer.
So you do think that harm is part of the definition? Then?
No, I would say you could consider CrossFit a cult, and I would say you can consider it a cult, but creating harm is not necessarily needed to be a cult.
Would you say the common definition, like that most people would use, though? I feel like you have a nuanced view, I think, because you've done more research and you're more.
I feel like people would. I don't know. There's something weird about those CrossFitters, man.
Totally.
Eeriness or weirdness to the dedication. I think that's a part of the cult, is it seems to extend beyond like regular belief. But at the same time, like sometimes I look at very popular religions and have similar thoughts. So it's hard to say like which one of us is going to be brave enough to put a certain religion on.
Cults I'd be swindled into joining.
Not cults you've been in, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Does somebody want to go first? Or I haven't gone first. I can go first.
Send it.
Okay, my first one is one that actually a cult I perceive that I feel like I got out of before it got really culty, and that we have a couple members of ourselves, and that is the cult of iPhone. I feel like one day I could be swindled into joining it again, but at this point in time, I'm very much an anti-iPhone believer. iPhone is a cult for the following reasons. One, this company has done an absolutely stellar job at creating peer pressure to be an iPhone member or user. We're going to interchangeably use the words user and member here, but basically people pay more money for an inferior product. And then when their inferior product doesn't work properly, because the inferior product is inferior because it's punishing you for interacting with non-iPhone users, members, you blame the non-users. You don't blame the people who created it and are keeping you in the cycle of an inferior product. You blame the people who aren't in the cult with you. I feel like I've experienced this as a poor, enlightened Android user. I am constantly being told from people, if everybody has an iPhone, they're like, oh, you're going to ruin the group chat. Oh, you make it so much harder. But like the reality is these people have bought a product that they know excludes people purposefully. The technology is there to make it inclusive. We know this because if you have an Android, you can Wi-Fi text anyone. Apple other Android users, anybody across the board. When you are an iPhone, you can only iMessage, aka Wi-Fi text, other iPhone users. They hold the technology from you. You can't name a group chat. We can name our group chats privately with anyway. I think for a while you guys had this problem. Tell me if you still have this problem. If somebody likes something in a group chat with an Android user, does it say the words liked the message, or did they finally get the emojis figured out so that you just see the emoji?
It's the annoying one where it says X person liked message.
I thought that was kind of like a retaliation
It was.
that Google put out. Us little Android users used to get liked a message and get a response every time, but now they get it and we don't. Because
it's on your Android did it.
Hell yeah.
Okay, well then another one is that you guys can only FaceTime other iPhone users. Android has a thing called Duo where you can like FaceTime anybody. And also it's turning into Meet now. So it's basically like you're basically Google meeting with somebody when you do it. At least for me, for Google, I'm able to FaceTime, Wi-Fi FaceTime with anybody. A couple of days ago, somebody tried to include me in an iPhone photo album, and it's not available on my device. They made it so that like non-iPhone users can't access the iPhoto cloud, whatever. I'm not saying that right. The iCloud photo albums anymore. But if I create a Google album with all my photos, all anybody needs is a link.
And they can add and look.
Yeah,
share.
and they don't need to create an account or anything. Like, it's just... Anyway, so that's my tirade on how iPhone's a cult, and I'm just tired of people telling me that I'm the problem when they went and bought an extremely outrageously expensive phone that intentionally punishes you for interacting with anyone who's not an iPhone user.
Yeah.
I will defend myself and say that I buy the version that's like $200 every time. That's my only defense in this
So
situation.
your phone is like 12 versions behind mine then.
It is. It's the oldest version because I refuse to. I think that...
Have you looked into the cheap Android versions, or have you always just stayed with iPhone?
I am a person that is stagnant until I'm basically forced to change my ways. And so because I don't care enough, I won't probably change. But I'm not culty about it.
Yes.
I feel like you're I don't disagree, but I feel like it's a soft cult.
That's why it's number 3. Yeah. It's a soft cult, but there are people who are super into iPhone. Like,
no, there are. I'm on the lowest spectrum, but I do
you're
interact with
barely
people.
in it, but there are people. Like, I remember at one point Amanda tried to get out of the cult of iPhone, and she was trying to convince other people that it was good out there, and then she went back in. She was like, the pressure was too much. So
yeah, I have considered getting an iPhone, like more than once in the past couple years, just because their privacy settings and like their data sharing is also, they're very strict, and it's not like Google. So
there was a mass shooting. I don't remember what the situation was, but the mass shooter had an iPhone, and the police asked to, like, they wanted to get to the messages and figure out why this person did it, where if there's another thing coming, blah, blah. They got the iPhone physically, but they couldn't get in and they couldn't analyze any of the data. And they asked Apple to have access. And Apple said, that's not part of our user contract clause, whatever. So no, you don't get access to this person's like personal information. So they didn't give.
Damn.
Are you giving, this is good?
No, I'm supporting Mara's argument that they have very strong data privacy.
I was referencing like when you go to different websites, or you can shut it off so like Instagram doesn't get your data.
Yeah. No, Apple does ask me every time I get a new app. They say, do you want this to share your location and your information and all this stuff? And I get like, it pops it up and it makes me choose.
Well, mine does that too. Yeah. It's like allow while using the app, don't allow at all.
Oh, okay.
Or allow all the
that's
time.
just normal.
Yeah, but
I don't know what's normal because I've always had an iPhone.
If I say don't allow at all, like part of the app doesn't work.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, that's my third.
Solid.
Softball into it.
You want to go?
Go. No, I don't care.
Okay. You go, Kara.
Okay. My number 3 is PETA. I researched because I basically, no, I can't say, I'll say it at the end. But I feel, okay, so I've been vegetarian since I was 13, vegan for the past like 6 years for people listening. And I have gone through eras of my vegan vegetarian life where I have been very opinionated and judgmental and feel a certain way about the way the animals are treated. And I feel like if people knew, then maybe they wouldn't do the things that they do. And I feel like it would be pretty easy actually for me to get swindled into PETA. And I found an article where a previous employee talks about how cult-like it is. And she talks about how like new PETA employees are blooming animal active rights people from college, and they take these like low paying jobs, and PETA's indoctrination is super successful, and they soak it in like a sponge because they're 21 years old, and then they like spout the organization sound bites all the time, and they can't even see why this is ridiculous or why it's crazy. And also, the more I researched this, the more I came to realize that PETA is actually a fucking terrible organization sometimes, because they actually kill a ton of animals and, you know, all this stuff. And they're very aggressive in their tactics.
Why do they kill the animals?
The why eludes me a little bit, but I do know that the PETA organization doesn't believe that anybody should own or control an animal in any way. So if they have like a PETA shelter, they will kill the animals because they don't think that anybody should like own them. And this employee in this article talks about it. Like they talk about how they believe that there's rights and autonomy of each animal. And if euthanasia was the best thing for the animal, then they make the decision that this is what's going to happen, essentially. And if not, then if the employee chooses not to, then they're booted from the tribe, i.e. cult. So I could see that before my brain was fully developed at 25, and I was in my more aggressive vegan phase, I could definitely see getting easily talked into doing some crazy shit. And I'm sure that I probably spoke like some PETA activists. I just don't have the strength to be part of a cult, I think. That's probably why it didn't happen.
This is a good one, because when I started my little vegetarian journey, it's because of a philosophy class called The Ethics of Eating Animals. And that the beginning of it was very difficult for me because it did feel like all the thinking felt very extreme. And I still think some of it is very extreme. But
what is PETA's stance on pets?
They don't think we should have pets. They think it's extremely immoral.
Okay, because that's not what PETA says on their organization website.
What do they say about pets?
Minus half point for Kara stating things that she hasn't even looked up. That's
I don't know who wrote that article, but they didn't check their facts.
At PETA, we love and respect the animal companions who share our homes. Contrary to myth, PETA does not want to confiscate beloved, well cared for companions and, quote, set them free, unquote. What we do want is to reduce the tragic overpopulations of dogs and cats through spaying and neutering. And we are opposed to all breeding.
Grayson's going crazy in the chat. He said PETA has abducted pets from people's yards. He said he would literally be screaming right now.
Also, there's a Guardian website that pops up that says PETA says sorry for taking girl's pet chihuahua. So like, I think maybe I think if they perceive you as not being a good pet owner, they will steal the pet for sure. But I don't think they're against. Some organizations have the front side of what they say, and then they have actions on the back end. So I'm thinking maybe they don't.
All organizations.
Yeah. So
it's saying it does not oppose kind people. So as long as you're doing it right.
Which is what? How do they define that?
You know, people who aren't kicking their dogs or starving them or leaving them outside. I assume I'm not saying that every stolen pet by PETA has been correct, obviously. I think as a family, as a person who has been affected by somebody thinking a pet wasn't being taken care of. And so they took the pet, and then we didn't know where the pet was for 2 weeks. And then they came back and they're like, hey, your pet's like terminally ill, and there's nothing that can be done about it. Also, here's $2,000 in vet bills. And my parents being like, yeah, we know. We already went through that. Like, I'm not saying like, oh yeah, it's good to like take pets from other people, but I do see the like, there are lots of stories of, oh, I watched this dog get abused or left out in the rain and the cold, blah, blah, blah. So I took the pet. I think that's what PETA is saying.
They also are opposed to seeing eye dogs too. So like, I think that
what?
There's like,
wait, why?
Because they're being used. So I think that there's like the PETA website, and then there's like all of these things that I've been reading and seeing on videos about what PETA people do.
You went deep, dude.
I felt like I had to defend myself on this one. I was surprised at how well this went, actually.
This one, okay, they say they don't, it's not because the dogs are being used. I think I'm going to keep with my negative 0.5 to you, because it seems like you didn't actually look up your PETA lore, why they do the things, because PETA basically is saying that they don't like it because they think they're equally intelligent dogs in shelters that could be used for these programs. But the programs prioritize breeding to get these dogs for the seeing eye programs, and they don't like that. They want them to go out there, find Toast, and be like, Toast, you are intelligent enough to be a seeing eye dog, and put tons of money and time into a dog that may not, maybe intelligent enough, but may not be suited for the job.
I will just point out too that that's false, because my aunt works for an organization that they train dogs for PTSD, like for veterans and the veterans that have PTSD. And it's like a 1% pass rate. Like, it's crazy how few dogs are actually able to do jobs like that. I'll take the negative half. I'm fine with that. I didn't expect to win this. I came in very tired, but I'm very proud of my thinking, and I think
PETA counts. I think PETA counts for sure. Yeah. Mostly because the really intense. I remember the like intense PETA boats, something with whaling. Do we all remember that? The pictures of the PETA people like sailing around the world like pirates.
I tried to find that organization because I was going to put that on my list, but I can't find it, because I would 100% now here, Kara, 32 years old, I would totally do that. Because I think whaling is extremely horrible. See, I'm already like,
you are so
close.
Far
of a stretch.
You are so close. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe this is where the distraction comes in. It's just my motive.
I feel that because I went a very different route so far, just based off of your first two answers.
You're like, give me some of that Kool-Aid, Jim Jones.
Yeah.
Like, let's go.
I didn't even think about modern day cults. My number 3 cult I could see myself getting swindled into is a cult called Happy Science.
I looked up that one.
Formerly known as the Institute for Research in Human Happiness. It's a new religious movement in Japan, and it's not very small. It has 11 million followers, which is huge. It was founded in October of 1986 by a former Wall Street trader, Uho Okawa.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. So, and honestly, off the bat, don't trust him right away. Wall Street people are the worst. But their aim is to bring happiness to humanity by spreading truth. And their basic teachings are the exploration of the right mind, the foretold path, and they believe in like reincarnation, and their like leader or overall god that they pray to is El Cantere. And even though this was founded like 37 years ago, they believe that El Cantere is a deity who is the highest god on earth, the Lord of all gods. I got all this from Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm. I researched this one too.
They believe that the being was first born on earth 330 million years ago, and that is the same entity that's been worshipped at different times. And they think that that entity has been Odin or Hermes.
Oh. Yes, there's
I thought
like
one
all
said
these gods.
Abe Lincoln. My
bad.
The thing that I like is their little this is in quotes, so it's from their little scripture, but the aspiration and discipline to seek the truth and actively contribute to the realization of love, peace, and happiness on earth. They believe in reincarnation, angels, demons, heaven, hell, and aliens. The negative is that during COVID, they were falsely selling spiritual vaccines that they claimed to prevent and cure COVID, that they made millions of dollars off of. So would have had a little spiritual awakening during COVID and gotten myself out of there.
You've been like, this isn't so happy anymore.
When I was researching this one, what I really appreciated was that this deity that has been around, what'd you say, 300,000 years?
No, 330 million.
Yeah, okay. That it had been that this creature had been reincarnated to so many different important things, and now it's in this guy just by happenstance.
I know, it's like this guy.
What a convenient story.
Inflated self.
I definitely could see myself getting into that one too. I was like pretty close to putting that on my list because I feel like the root, like,
yeah,
the base idea I'm into.
Yes.
I feel like I could be like, yeah, I do seek happiness. Like I want truth. Like I don't want to be lied to, like I could totally see that working. Typically there's like an entry level version. And then like the longer you're in there, the more you learn and the more fucked up it gets. But now you're invested. And now you're like, you have no other options and you've like left your family members, whatever. So I feel like that one I could see like slowly dipping into. And then once it's too far, like that's when you learn the truth,
Yeah, because they also do like teachings where you can go and they do little classes on things. So which
we love. We go to do those all the time. Okay. My number 2 is an organization I just found out about because I was doing this research. It's called Just Stop Oil. It is an organization in the UK, and their goal is to stop approving new fossil fuel projects on behalf of climate change. It is majority like young, privileged, white people in the UK that do very public disruptive displays to call people's attention. They claim that they already tried to work with Parliament. They tried to do it the like non-destructive route, but like somebody tied their neck to a soccer goal during the middle of like a very intense match. One person like sprayed during like the snooker championship, they like sprayed powder all over the like building, so the person like the group had to stop playing. They've like blocked roads. This is their big thing. Like they'll walk super slowly because technically they're walking. And they'll stop oil trucks from going places. They'll like release the air pressure like from tires so that the oil trucks can't move, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a very like tight knit group of people that have a very strong belief in the continuation of using fossil fuels as this like super harmful act. And I don't disagree with them.
Is this the group that has ruined a couple paintings? Like,
I think it's a different group technically, but they do stuff like that. So I think that would be something that would be in their repertoire.
Yeah, because there's been a couple articles about young people throwing like cans of SpaghettiOs, essentially.
Oh, it was them.
Oh, okay, yep. Cool. Yeah.
My article, it says so. Yeah, they, during the, I'm going to butcher this, Les Miserables?
Hell yeah, brother.
Did I do it? Okay. They like interrupted this very intense performance of that at Royal Albert Hall.
You can just say Les Mis. I think Les Mis would have been better. Start it again so that nobody has to hear you say that.
They interrupted a very prominent play, Les Mis, in the middle of like this big London performance, and they were the ones that threw tomato soup on Van Gogh's sunflower painting at the National Gallery.
What? Yeah. Why did they do that?
Yes. To bring awareness to climate change.
Because they're trying to get people to be aware of it and to make changes.
I read that and I saw that in the news, and I was both upset and kind of like, good for you. So He painted a bunch of different sunflowers, you know? There's got to be another one.
Yeah, just make more. Yeah, so I do have very strong beliefs about the way that we're dealing with climate change. And I do think that we're making a lot of irreparable damage and not making change quick enough. And so in the right mindset, I could see how I would be somebody that would call. I probably wouldn't do something destructive to super, important art and things like that. But I could see like, blocking a street or something a little less like destructive. But also there's a lot of articles in the UK about how, like, I think somebody stopped a Heathrow plane at one point and then somebody missed their kid's like wedding or graduation or something like that. And
What
like
are
they
these
won't
guys called?
apologize. Just Stop Oil.
Also, they're going to miss a whole lot more than a graduation or wedding coming up due to climate change.
That's what they say. That's literally like when they respond to the articles and stuff, they're like, oh yeah, we'll see how it is in 10 years. Are there even going to be planes? Like,
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I think I would join this cult, hands down.
What makes them a cult?
It's a strong, this is why I looked up the definition. It is a great devotion to a movement, and it's a very similar group of people that have similar belief systems and tactics. And they're willing to go to great lengths and get arrested and things like that.
They got that young little mindset that people find unnerving and most people don't agree with.
Yeah, most people are pissed in all the videos that I watch.
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah. I mean, these are my belief systems just heightened for both of these. My number one's a little different. It's that's not on.
This one I'm a little less convinced. I see how PETA kind of takes over people's lives. I'm not so sure about the Just Stop Oil people, I guess. That's where I'm landing.
That's fair. I saw your face.
My number 2 cult that I would be swindled into joining is they go by many name. They don't exist anymore. I did kind of bring them up at the beginning of this podcast, but it is the female cult of Dionysus back in the day. They were called the Bacchae or the Bacchae, depending on who you ask, or the Maenads. They were an example of what happened to women when there wasn't a male influence and what would happen to these women. Dionysus would usually do this as like a punishment if a city wasn't worshiping him correctly or if somebody offended him. He would turn the city's women mad and they would all run away to the mountains, put flowers in their hair. They would wear panther skins and fawn skins, and they would basically party all day, party all night, drinking, dancing, just the women. If men ever came over to try and tell them what to do, they would literally like rip them apart limb from limb. They were super strong because they had Dionysus, behind them. And this to me is super cool cult. I definitely, if I were in ancient Greece living as a woman, you bet the minute somebody was like, want to run away to the mountains and just like forget all of this, leave all this behind, and like if a man comes, like we'll just kill him.
You would get to kill him?
I'd be like, sign me up. I'm the new priestess. Let's go.
I feel like you would have started it.
I know.
I feel like that's
it would have started out as like flower breeding and like camping in the woods, and we just go from there. That sounds wonderful.
Also, there was like the Bacchanalia, which is like a big festival for Dionysus, Bacchus. And it started out as a 3-day event for women only. Like women only went to this event and like had a festival. And I'm like, when else are you going to get a women only party where you can like get drunk and feel safe because like there's no men around, like they're not allowed.
They would be getting sued in Australia right now. Because
what?
Why?
Oh, because this woman artist opened up this gallery, and inside of it, she has a woman only like party or club essentially. And so this guy is suing her because he was like, I wasn't able to fully experience the whole art gallery. I paid money. And she was like, yeah, that's the point. Like, you don't allow us into certain spaces. So yeah, she's going to take it to the Supreme Court over there.
Fuck yeah, dude. Get a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. And instead of allowing men in there, she's closing it because she's like, no, women only.
I love that. I do wonder what's going to happen at the Supreme Court level, though, because I do think that's going to be not on our side.
She wants them to say it's unconstitutional, because if they say it's unconstitutional for her to not allow men in there, then men have to allow women into their men only clubs.
Oh, nice. So she's like, let's do it. She's calling his double bluff. The government also got involved in Bacchanalia back in the day. Basically, any women who participated in it were sworn to secrecy, and, you know, it was like members only. So they couldn't talk about what happened, you know, like what happens in Bacchanalia stays in Bacchanalia. And basically the Roman Senate was like, that's effed up. We're men. We want to know what you're doing. You women are probably planning a revolt now with your super strength and your bloodlust for men. And so the Senate changed a bunch of rules, so that way they had to tell them what they were doing, which completely like restructured the cult, basically, because then they had to get permission from the government every time they wanted to do something in Bacchanalia. Big bummer.
That's good. I like that one.
That's 100%. Like, if that still existed today, I'd be in it.
There are like certain running clubs where you kind of drink and have a good time while you're running, and you make jokes and you follow like a scavenger hunt, I want to say.
Yeah.
What are those running clubs called?
I don't know.
We did one, and I was a part of one in Australia when I was there. I can't remember. You could walk or you could run.
Yeah.
And everybody had like nicknames like camp.
Yeah, they all have nicknames.
Yeah. And it was more of just like a fun, it was kind of culty, honestly, but like in a good way. It was really fun.
Yeah.
You know that you could just start Bacchanalia 2.0. You know how fucking successful, you want to make money, dude? Bacchanalia 2.0. Bacchanalia 2024.
Oh my God. I could be the next Fire Festival. They'll make a documentary about it. Except it'll be organized by women, so it'll be a success.
So it'll be amazing and perfect.
And not fraud.
And not fraud. It was a great number 2.
Yeah. My number 2 cult that I could see myself getting swindled into is another oldie. It's called the Ra-Alien movement.
I've heard of this one too.
RA with the 2 dots above it, ELIAN. The things I'm about to say are akin to going to one mass and then being like, I can tell you the whole history of the Catholic Church, because they've been around for a really long time and there was a ton of information. And so I really only have a couple like big bullet points. Okay. But they believe...
Is this the aliens one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
There's a lot of cults that like have aliens
a lot
in the lore.
It's actually wild.
Yeah. They believe that life on Earth, as well as many religions of the world, were the work of extraterrestrial influence. They believe that these were scientists and that the ancient people saw them as gods and gave them the name Elhom. But they're very sexually free, and they are huge activists, kind of for the left-wing party. They protest in favor of the right to choose, like for abortion, and then like they're activists for getting rid of the negative legislation persecuting.
They want freedom.
People. Yes,
ironically,
they want freedom, and they want the right for women to go topless.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
If men can go topless and show their nipples, so should women. I don't fucking understand that.
That's what they say.
Listen, I'm in the cult.
You did it. You turned her.
Yeah. But they have like little alien mascots, and they have this pretty cool symbol.
Wow.
Grayson asks you to describe the symbol.
Oh man, fuck off. Can you Google? Oh, it does. So their symbol does look a little bit like the Star of David.
And
what?
The swastika.
Oh shit.
Before
No.
1991, yeah. There was it's the
Before
Star of David plus the
1991?
swastika. Yeah.
Yikes.
Star of David, it's an interesting combo to choose.
Well, you know,
in an era after World War II.
the swastika is also seen in Buddhism.
I know. I know, but no one sees it that way.
Yeah.
That's not how it's perceived in current day.
Yikes. I did look at it and think, that looks like the Star of David.
I think it is.
Again, going to one mass and knowing the whole history. But yikes.
Yeah, the symbol we've got some issues with.
Yeah.
For sure. I can't get behind the whole aliens thing. I looked into a couple of them. I was like, and I'm reading like the whole Ender's Game series. There's like theories about that in the books and stuff. Like, I've thought about it. It's like, again, it's kind of like how, no offense, Christians, we don't believe in evolution. It's like, okay, so we're just going to scrap the idea of evolution for either a Jesus or an alien? Like,
well, the aliens are scientists, Kara.
Yeah.
Also,
Also,
that we
they
named
left
we named them Yahweh. We named them Elohim, which I think is what you meant to say, Tamara.
Yep. I've heard it both ways.
Like, which is the Old Testament word for God. Like they're just a scientist from an advanced
So
place.
did they drop like water in amoebas and then evolution happened in the theory?
You know what? I don't know that, but I do wonder if the ending of Battlestar Galactica was based off of this because, spoiler, it's been out for almost 20 years, so fuck you guys. But at the very end, like their planets all get demolished and then these people travel and they end up on Earth and then like all of their technology breaks and they basically crash land to Earth and then they're the people that populate Earth. They would be aliens.
Yeah.
Are you interested in this cult because of the sensual meditation aspect?
Yeah.
I like that. So, short, simple, we're not going to expand.
He's like, I don't want to take the bait.
I didn't even I had so much trouble picking more than 2 cults.
You're like, these
I
are
didn't even want to
dude.
put this one. This was my throwaway, I guess. This probably should have been my number 3.
Yeah, why was it your number 2? Minus half
Negative
point.
0.25. Yeah.
Sensual meditation.
What does that even mean? Orgy?
No, it's a
Okay.
relaxation or exercise known as harmonization with the infinite. And you do oxygenation, which has some deep breathing apparently. And you're going to relax and you're expanding until yourself becomes a speck within the universe. And you're supposed to basically have sexual arousal during it.
There it is.
And that's interpreted as evidence that you're in telepathic contact.
Oh my God, shut up.
With Elohim.
With the aliens?
Yeah.
Why are the aliens causing sexual activity?
The goal of the sensual meditation is to achieve, quote, a cosmic orgasm,
dude,
unquote.
They also believe that they encourage like masturbation and whatnot. And they also encourage you to think about like God doing the dirty to you.
Wait, what? Okay, but
also they're aliens. It's not God. It's aliens that are doing the dirty to you. Then it's like, this is wild.
I don't know. Maybe I'm conflating other ones. I read so many.
Yeah, there's a lot of alien
I love that you brought
ones.
it up.
But also this guy Rael or whatever. He married a 16-year-old at one point in 2001. Yeah,
cult leaders. They've got a theme.
Yeah, I had to work really hard to make sure to find cults where it didn't have these nefarious undertones.
Yikes! -2 to me for even mentioning this one.
You know what? I mean, sensual meditation seems pretty positive. It seems like a pretty sex positive place.
Yeah, and they do actively go to protests, but who knows? Since their symbol was a swastika and the Star of David until 1991.
Also, what changed in 1991?
Oh man,
I was born. I am the god.
Shit.
I am an alien.
Now you just gotta convince people.
Mostly, I was attracted to this one for the aliens.
You're attracted to the aliens. It's already happening.
Yeah, it's been in my lore already.
All right, let's go to our sponsors. Our number 3 sponsor this week is Grayson.
Sizzle.
Thanks for everything you do, bud. You know what you do. Wink.
I don't think I like that.
Ooh, nice. It was
He has
good.
been messaging, just so you know, the entire time we've been talking.
I know. Yeah, he just gave
So
a
he is-
heart.
And he's actively involved.
Number 2 is going to be
Summer camp.
Summer camp is kind of like the gateway cult, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
something about it. Summer camps,
You weren't already born into a religion.
yeah, it's like you go there, you get a new name, you learn this lingo, CITs. There's other ones. There's other lingo. I can't remember it
Purple
anymore.
bandana.
Yes.
Yeah, there's an outfit.
There's the games,
chants, there's
the
songs.
black magic.
You're leading children.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. A lot going on.
You're leading children.
Dude, they follow you. They want to be all up on you. Get off me.
Yeah, they give you a taste of power. There's a hierarchy. There's a camp
Yeah.
director. Yeah, that's a pretty good one. And our number 1 sponsor for this episode is our own cult, the Proidano Lishker
Our Juzarat.
Shut up. That's
No.
so good.
Bush
Yes.
Knief.
No. Pradana Lishker for Juzarat.
You're missing so many.
Oh, I'm missing so many.
What is
Grayson,
it?
don't- Never say it.
Grayson had to memorize it, didn't he? No, that was Maddie and Tom.
Yeah.
I want to know though.
Pro Dono Lish.
Kirkney Farduzarat.
Anyway, for our listeners, we made up our own last name.
And some of us traveled to Italy and we hired a photographer and we got into special dresses and we married each other. So
With rings.
With rings. So our own cults.
Yeah. We had little flowers, a reception.
It was great. You'd be
We call
jealous.
each other the Frouses.
Yeah. Friend spouses. We got a tattoo in a mall.
Oh yeah. It's
Together.
very culty. It's very culty.
Matching tattoos. I feel like we need to make that clear. They're
Right.
matching.
Well, complimentary matching.
Yeah.
But Savina and I have matching, which I
Yeah.
love.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Karen and I have matching, basically.
Also, we print our name on clothing
About
every time
once
we
a
get
year,
together
we-
for our annual reunions.
Once a year, we distribute gear where we have our name repeated over and over and over again, just so people can really
Love explaining it. It's on the photo above the computer, Kara.
Oh. It's so tiny. Hang on. One moment, please. Proidano Lish Ker Far Bush Knie Druzarat.
Okay, so it's Ker Far Bush. That's the part where I always get
Bush.
Ker Far Bush. Prodano Lish Ker Far
Lish
Bush.
Izarat.
Oh my God, we can't do it at the same time. Say it again.
Proidano Lish Ker Far Bush Knie Druzarat.
Proidana Lish Ker Far Bush Knie Druzarat. I think
The
I could have done it
Druzarat
better.
goes so nicely.
Druzarat and
so does the beginning.
Pridana Lishker. It's the
Yeah.
far bush knee that we needed to work on.
I mean, we could, like,
No.
we can rebrand, whatever.
No.
Or we could just like cut them out and then,
Yeah. See what happens.
yeah.
Stir the pot. Make the next swag without that middle part.
Pridana Lishker Druzarat. Just
See if
shorten
they
it.
even notice. Do you know if they even notice?
They'll notice.
Only because we put it in the podcast. Yes. We just love cults.
We're probably going to have to take a little pawsy wazy. We'll be back next time for the, what? What's wrong with pawsy wazy?
I just, so baby.
It's so baby.
I'm trying to think of another time I've heard you say that. I was just surprised.
I do it a lot, honestly.
Damn.
Yes, you do.
I'm doing that a lot these days. This is my new thing. If we were still living together, you would have taken it up.
I'd be saying it.
It's crazy that out of the three of us, you have been least drawn into cults when I feel like you probably have most cult minds. Like,
Cult-like.
I feel like you would be the easiest to get in here, you know?
I do too. I'm a yes
And this
man.
is why we have 2 parts this week, is because of this exact situation.
Right. The 2 parts. And we will be back next week to continue wherever we left off, because we know where we left off. We're not recording this after
Yeah.
the fact because it's so long. Okay.
No.
We love you. See you part 2.
Yeah. Yep. I love you. See you at part 2. Follow us on My Top Everything, Instagram, Facebook, slide into the DMs, email us, mytopeverything podcast@gmail.com. Try and sponsor us. Make us an offer we can't refuse. Great.